How much does your dog actually trust you right now? Not in a general sense, specifically. Because trust between a dog and their owner isn't fixed. It's built through patterns, and it's broken through patterns. And some of the patterns breaking it right now are things you do every single day without a second thought. Most owners never connect the behavior change in their dog to something they themselves are doing. This video is about that connection. Stay until the end, because the last one is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be doing the most damage of all. 1. Punishing them after the moment has passed. You come home, something is destroyed. A cushion, a shoe, something you cared about. And your dog, already reading your body language from across the room, looks guilty before you've said a word. So you raise your voice. You point at the damage. You make sure they understand. But here's the behavioral reality. Dogs do not process cause and effect across time the way humans do. By the time you walk through that door, the behavior that caused the damage is already neurologically disconnected from your dog's current state. What your dog is reading is not guilt about what they did. They're reading your energy, your posture, your tone, and responding with appeasement signals to de-escalate what they perceive as an incoming threat. You think you're correcting a behavior. You're actually teaching them that your return home is unpredictable and unsafe. Behaviorists often note that dogs subjected to delayed punishment show increased anxiety responses specifically around owner arrivals, not around the behaviors that caused the punishment. The association being built is not, "I shouldn't do that." It is, "I cannot predict this person." That's not discipline, that's erosion. Microaction. If you come home to damage, say nothing. Clean it up. Address the root cause: boredom, separation stress, insufficient enrichment, not the symptom. 2. Forcing interactions they're telling you they don't want. Your dog is resting in their corner. You walk over, sit beside them, start petting. They shift slightly. Their body stiffens just a fraction. Maybe they look away. Maybe their tail goes still. And you keep going because they're not pulling away dramatically, so you assume it's fine. It's not fine. Dogs communicate discomfort through extremely subtle signals. A slight head turn, a lip lick, a weight shift away from your hand, a yawn at a moment that has nothing to do with tiredness. These are called calming signals, and they are your dog's first language for saying, "I need this to stop." When those signals are consistently ignored, dogs learn that communication is pointless. They stop using the subtle language, and eventually, the only signal left is a growl, which then gets them punished for aggression that was actually months of ignored requests. You think it's affection. They experienced it as not being heard. That's not a small thing. Being heard is the foundation of trust in any relationship, including this one. Microaction. Before you pet your dog, extend your hand and let them come to it. If they turn away or show no interest, respect that. Try again later. 2 seconds of checking changes everything. 3. Inconsistent rules that shift without warning. Monday, your dog is allowed on the couch. Tuesday, you have guests and they get pushed off with a firm no. Wednesday, they're back up there with you watching television. Thursday, a new rule appears from nowhere. From your dog's perspective, this isn't flexibility. This is chaos. Dogs build their entire sense of safety around predictability. Their behavioral security system runs on pattern recognition. If I do this, this happens. If that happens, I know what comes next. When the rules shift depending on your mood, your schedule, or who's watching, you don't just confuse your dog. You remove the ground from under them. They can no longer predict outcomes. And a dog that cannot predict outcomes lives in a permanent low-level state of anxiety. Research suggests that dogs in environments with inconsistent behavioral expectations show significantly higher cortisol baselines than dogs in stable, predictable households, regardless of how affectionate the owner is in other respects. Affection without consistency doesn't build trust. It builds confusion. You think you're being flexible. They're experiencing instability. Microaction. Write down 3 rules your dog currently has. Check if every person in your home enforces them the same way, every time. Inconsistency usually lives there. 4. Using their name as a punishment signal. Here is something most owners do without ever noticing. They use their dog's name when they're angry. Max. Max. Said with that specific tone, flat, sharp, loaded. And Max comes, because he always comes when his name is called. And then something unpleasant follows. Raised voice, physical correction, forced removal from a space. If you're the kind of owner who genuinely wants to understand your dog, hit like and subscribe. That's how we reach more people who want to love their dogs the right way. Over time, a dog's name stops being a neutral signal and becomes a threat warning. Max learns that his name, specifically in that tone, predicts something aversive. So he starts hesitating. He comes more slowly. He approaches with his body low and his tail uncertain. And owners interpret this as stubbornness or dominance. It's neither. It's a dog who has learned that responding to his own name sometimes leads somewhere painful. That's not a training problem. That's a trust problem built one repetition at a time. Micro-action. From today, your dog's name only predicts good things. Call their name, then give a treat, praise, or play every single time. Rebuild the association completely. 5. Pulling them away from things they're processing. Your dog stops on a walk, nose down, locked in, reading something you can't see. You pull the leash. Keep moving. You have somewhere to be. Or your dog finds something in the yard, a smell, a sound, something in the grass, and you call them away before they've finished. And they come, because they're bonded to you, because they trust you enough to leave what they're doing when you ask. But here's what's happening on their end. Smell is your dog's primary sense. It processes the world the way your eyes process yours. When a dog sniffs an object deeply, they're not being slow or distracted. They're reading information. Who was here, when, what they ate, what they felt. It's their version of checking their phone, reading the news, catching up on the neighborhood. When you consistently pull them away mid-process, you're not just interrupting a sniff. You're telling them that what matters to them doesn't matter to you. Repeated often enough, that message accumulates. Walks become your agenda, not a shared experience. And dogs who never get to engage with their environment on their own terms become withdrawn, frustrated, or increasingly disconnected. That's not an obedience issue. That's a relationship where one party's needs are always secondary. Micro-action. Build 5 minutes of free sniff time into every walk. Put the leash loose, stop moving, and let them read whatever they're reading. That 5 minutes does more for your bond than 30 minutes of structured walking. 6. The one almost nobody talks about. What I mentioned at the beginning. The last one. The one that may be doing the most damage of all. Leaving them alone more than they can handle, and telling yourself they're fine because they don't show you that they're not. There is a deep and widely held myth that dogs are independent, that they cope, that as long as they have food, water, and a safe space, hours of solitude are neutral. It is one of the most damaging beliefs in dog ownership. Dogs are pack animals at a neurological level. Isolation doesn't just make them bored. For many dogs, extended solitude triggers a genuine stress response. Elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, changes in appetite, repetitive behaviours, withdrawal. And the reason most owners never connect this to their dog's behaviour change is that dogs don't protest loudly. They don't bark at the door for hours screaming for you. They go quiet. They go still. They wait. And when you come home, they're so relieved to see you that the suffering reads as enthusiasm and everything seems fine. Imagine spending 8-10 hours in complete isolation every day and having no way to tell anyone. Imagine the only person who could change that walking through the door and genuinely not knowing. That's not a dramatic scenario. That's the daily reality for millions of dogs in otherwise loving homes. Behaviourists often note that separation-related stress is one of the most underdiagnosed sources of behavioural change in domestic dogs, precisely because the symptoms, lethargy, reduced engagement, subtle withdrawal, are so easy to misread as the dog simply being calm or well-adjusted. You think they're fine. They've just learned that showing you they're not doesn't change anything. If the change is persistent, if your dog seems less engaged, less interested, slower to connect, a conversation with a vet or behavioural specialist is always worth having. Not because something is broken, because they deserve someone paying attention. Micro-action. Before you leave tomorrow, spend 10 minutes of real, present, undistracted time with your dog. Not beside them while you're on your phone. With them. Eye contact, physical contact, full presence. It won't fix the hours, but it tells them, you matter to me before I go. Because your dog doesn't need you to be perfect. They just need to be able to predict you, to trust that the person they've built their entire world around is paying attention. That's all they've ever asked for.